Welcome back. Today we are going to look into a tool called qTest Manager that is from Tricentis company. So qTest Manager is a complete end-to-end test management solution provided by Tricentis. So qTest Manager will also have the APIs exposed. So we are going to make use of those APIs in this series of tutorials. So today in the first video we are going to try executing a login API of the qTest using Postman. So in order to make use of those APIs, we first need to register to the qTest application. So you just go to Google and type Tricentis qTest and you will be finding Tricentis, something like this. So you can go here and explore a couple of tutorials around this, and once you are on Tricentis website you can click on free trials. So Tricentis will also have the good resources in learning or doing certifications about different tools provided by them, such as Tasca and qTest and Tricentis Flood and Live Compare. So our interest our interest lies in qTest for today. So just go ahead and click on start free trial and fill up the form that displays here. And once you fill the form, obviously you will be getting an email something like this with the domain that you entered and with the username. So once you click on the domain link, that takes you to your login page where you can enter your credentials you used to register. Let's give some time to load this page. So once you are on the home page of this qTest manager after login, you will find a default project, qconnect sample project. So if you click on qconnect sample project, you will be seeing different releases. These are all dummy releases created by them. So if you see the release one that is closed, status closed, and it has no requirements added to this release scope. So if you go to release 2, it is release is planned, and you can add the different requirements by clicking add button. Those requirements are available here. So just like this, in release 3 I have added a couple of requirements here, so I'm not going to add it in the release 3. This is just for exploration purpose, that we are trying to understand how qTest manager provides the different artifacts part of test management, something like test plan, requirements, test design, test execution, defects and reports. Right. So since we are going to talk about only with the API interaction of qTest with Postman, so one important setting I want to highlight is go to settings, click on automation settings. So by default, you will be seeing this automation activation status as off. Now click on this and it will turn into green, that indicates on. So that way you can interact with your qTest manager using different tools, and also you can integrate them with tool CI/CD tool integration or different test tools such as Tasca. By default, these two are from Tricentis, and our the reason we are exploring APIs today is to integrate our qTest manager tool with any of our open source frameworks such as Selenium, or I'm using PyTest in this case. So if not, you can also simply use Postman or Newman to interact with APIs and just play around how APIs works, and you can learn about API testing by using these APIs. Right. So in order to explore the APIs that qTest manager exposed, so this is the link that I am going to, api.qsymphony.com, where we can find multiple APIs exposed by qTest manager. Right. So it has extensive documentation provided, so we can go through these links to understand how this APIs works, or how the specifications of these APIs are defined, right? So so first things first, let's go to find our login API that we are interested in. So I'm going here. This is the login API. Login API has the verb post. That means we are posting some information to the server to make sure we are logging in successfully, right? So our information that we are posting here is credentials, username and password that we used while registering, right? So now it has some parameters that says grant type. Make sure you always use password. That's what it says. And the username, our username that we use to register, and the password that we enter during the registration, right? So these are the values that we need. So go ahead and open up your Postman console here, sorry, Postman tool, and click on new, and click on new collection. So we are going to create a collection of qTest APIs to run with. So I am just naming qTest. Let's make it more meaningful, qTest with Postman. So I just created a collection that's an empty collection that has no requests. Close this. Now right click on this, click on add request to that collection. The first request is login to qTest, right? So push add it to the collection qTest with Postman that we just created. Click on save. So by default it took the get method, but our login has post method. So go ahead and change it to post, right? So now we changed it to post, and we have created an empty request, empty post request to login. Now we need to fill in some details, as in mentioned here, grant type. Copy this parameter and go to the body of this request that we created. Click on form URL encoded type, and grant type, it says always use password, right? So go ahead and copy the another parameter that says username, and the username that I used while registering is my email ID, and the password, I used a dummy password for this demo. So after this demo I'm going to delete this account anyway. So sorry, this should be the parameter name. Hoo. Let me just get rid of asking key values and better you type password, and the password is resh22. That's it, we don't need this one. Get rid of this. Yeah, so we have three parameters as mentioned in this login method, login API. So we entered all this. Now what we need to make sure is, in order to log in, we have to have authorization mechanism in place. So for that reason, okay, before we go to authorization, we enter these values. Let's see what else get added in this method. So there is nothing added by default when we entered these values, right? So what I want to show is, go to authorization and click on basic auth. This is what we are going to make use of. So you will be displayed an empty username. Type Esperimi. This is my user ID. This is my username as email ID. So you can just make use of yours. And now earlier it was 9, now the headers became 10. That means the moment we enter here the username, that has created another authorization token under the headers automatically with the basic and some a random string that got generated, right? So we are leaving this password as is, and we don't need to enter any parameters. That's it, and we will see if it works. Well, request URL is empty. Now, how do we find the request URL? So remember, I shown you the email that I received when we registered successfully. Copy the host name of this domain and go here and paste it here. Now this is the base URL. Now we are going to append the endpoint for login. So the endpoint for login is this one, /auth token, right? So all we need to do is enter these values, /auth token, go here and type auth /token, right? So let's go back and double check again, /auth/token, /auth/token. Right, I entered. Let's hit the URL. If you see here, we got something back. So this response contains access token. This access token is the one we are going to use in the subsequent request while creating the projects or while creating the test cases or fetching the results for reports, right? So in order to do or in order to perform any action in qTest manager, we are going to make use of this access token, right? So and do remember that token type is bearer. Sometimes when you are coding it in your favorite languages, you might need to mention this bearer type. And the scope of this access token that allows you to do with your user ID that you created can includes all these actions, right? So agent is null. That's of no interest for us as of now. So right now what we did is we are able to log in successfully into qTest using login method or login post method, right? So now this is an individual request, but I want to pass this access token value that we received in response to the subsequent request. In order to do that, we have to save this access token as a variable in somewhere in the Postman and then pass that variable to the subsequent request. So how do we save this variable is in Postman is by making use of environments. So in my case, I'm clicking on this icon for the environments and click on add, and I am adding the environment name as qTest Postman and then add a variable with no value, access token. That's it. I'm not entering any initial or current values. Just click on add. That's it. Close the environment pop-up window. Now if you see, the environment that we just created is displayed here. Select this and click on view, this eye icon. So that shows the variable we added under this environment is displayed here, access token, right? As I said, we did not add any value, initial and current value. That's it. So now in order to pass the value of access token to this value under the environments, so we are going to write two lines of code under the test. Why we are writing under the test is this value will be displayed after execution of this post endpoint. So this is a post request action. So in order to save the post request action, I am first reading the complete response pm.json data.json, and now what I am going to do is postman.set environment variable, and then I am typing the variable name as access token and variable value is json data dot access underscore token, and then end this with the colon since this is kind of JavaScript. So let's see if it works. So there is some error in this. Let's find out by going to the console. So it says pm.set environment is not a No, JSON undefined. Cannot read property JSON undefined. Sorry. This should be pm dot. Yeah, let's make use of this one. JSON data equal to this. Actually, I typed it wrong. So let me just clear this. Now let's try once again. Postman dot set in. Okay, the spell check. Save it and send it again. Oh, we got it finally. So when I entered, I did couple of mistakes. Let's go back and revisit. Right. So I did not enter response. Instead, I entered JSON data. So that's one of the things we corrected initially. And then second one is, if you see here, I started with v as in lowercase. For that reason, it's not identified as the predefined method under this Postman. So now we executed this successfully. And let's go back and check if our environment variable is added here. Right. So this is the environment variable that's automatically added by pasting this line of code here. Right. So in Postman, one advantage is you will get predefined snippets. So if you want to test something, or if you want to set some variables such as global variables or environment variables, say for example, instead of writing the code here, I would have make use of set environment variable, right? So the way I write here manually is slightly different from the way the code snippet is showing, right? So here environment dot set, but this is old fashion in writing the environment variable to set it. But this is just minimized in a way and improved for different reasons, so that it's very readable for the user, right? So these are like a key value and key sorry, this is the variable name, and this is the variable value that we are passing. In our case, it is access token and access token value. So now we executed this successfully, right? So the next part is we logged into the qTest successfully. That's why we are seeing this access token response with 200. Okay, the response code. Now next method that we are interested in is getting all the projects that I have, right? So here under the projects, we have get method to fetch all the projects. Those are listed, or those are created under my username. If I go to our connect, sorry, qtest manager UI, so we will see one project, that is sample project. So if I use get projects method here, I should get that sample project listed in response. So get method, let's craft this get method into Postman and using different variables. So the variables, okay, go to Postman. First things first, let's create a new request and call it as, let's say, get all projects under the qtest with Postman request. So this is get method. So first things first, as I said, we will go ahead and copy the base URL and paste it here, trim that Auth. And now how do we find the endpoint? Endpoint here is mentioned something like this. So copy this, go to the Postman again, copy it, trim down this to 1/. That's it. We have crafted the endpoint for fetching all the projects available in our qtest manager. Now the next part is to add the parameters. So it says user profile as an expand. So what it means is this user profile, if you use this parameter, it it fetches all the permissions for your profile that you used in each project. So if I have multiple projects, I will be having multiple permissions for different project regions, right? So it will, if I use expand with user profile method, sorry, if I use expand with user profile as a variable or parameter, we will get all the permissions for our profile. So let's go to this and we will try to, sorry, add it here under the parameters, and then it should be user profile. Go to another one, assigned. It says assigned true by default, only the projects which the requested user has access to, right? So I'm going to make use of assigned as true for now, or else you can also play around with false values as well. And the pages, if I have like more than like more than 10 or 20 projects, it might display the pagination on the UI. So for that reason, we are actually constructing the pagination and how many projects we want to display in each page, right? So a page, by default I'm using one since I have only one project. So I'm constructing page as one as a parameter in Postman, and then page size I will be by default using 100. That's it. Now if you see, I keep on entering, as I keep entering, the URL gets added with the parameters that we keep adding here, right? So under the authorization, I go to base auth, and here I have the username that I entered. So now I hope we constructed it right. So let's save it and run it. So it says 401 unauthorized. So that means we haven't authorized it properly. So what we need to do is we have to assign our bearer token that we created in login to qTest, right? So that is how we are passing the access token value to the get request here. So that way we are making use of the access token value we created in the login request. So if you mouse over on this variable value that we entered, you will see the current value that is saved under environments as qtest postman. If you see the current value that's ending with 22e, that's the value it's displaying here, right? So now let's try. So we got the right request. Sorry, we got the right response with 200 OK. So 200 OK is the server responded appropriately as expected. Now we see the bunch of links here, and we are not interested for now. So if you see this one, ID is project ID 102456, and the name is qconnect sample project. This is what I have shown when we are on UI. So qconnect sample project is only the project I have in my under my user profile. So that's the one it is displaying, right? Status ID, it says start and something else. So as I mentioned, when we use expand here, we are also getting the user profile permissions for each project. In our case, we have only one project, so it shows the permissions for that project. So if you see, the user profile is this, and does he have the access, does he have the build actions, what build actions he has permissions to create, edit, delete, view, and in module it has all. And requirements, by default these are all the default settings that I haven't changed, so you can check for uh, all the tabs in the qconnect, sorry, qtest, uh, with different permissions assigned to my user ID. So what we did is we created a login request using a post method for qtest, and then once we successfully logged in, we saved our access token to the environment variable as a access token and its value. And then we are making use of that access token under authorization as a bearer token. And we are entering the variable value to get the variable value here. We are entering the variable name as a bearer token here. So when you enter variable name in Postman, you should make use of two braces, curly braces, starting and ending, right? So that's it for now, and in the next video we are going to look into how we can make use of the other APIs of the qTest to create the test cases, to create releases and start executing them, right? So most of the times you might not be using the Postman to develop the API way of interacting with qTest, right? So you might need, say for example, Python code for these APIs. So since you are aware of by now how to construct a post or get method in Postman, you can fetch the code for this request by clicking on code here, and then you can select any of these languages available, say for example C curl language, C lib curl language, and if you are working with Selenium Java, you can just say Java OK HTTP, or you can make use of any other Node.js modules. Or in Python way, since request library is most popular, mostly people use Python request library. So you can copy this code and make use of it in your frameworks. Right? I will be walking you through how you can use this code snippet using Python request in PyTest framework. Right? So that's saved for future videos. Until then, take care and stay safe.